Hey, welcome to what the fuck? Only a day late, which is not too bad. Just a couple things before we get to the questions. We are currently shooting episode 608. We will start 609 Tuesday, I think, Wednesday this week. We have drafts of 11 being written. I'm starting-ish my draft of 610. We are breaking the last two episodes, 612 and 613. Pretty much on track. The first three episodes went out to critics. I did the mix for 4 yesterday, so I think the plan is for 4 and 5 to go out to critics soon. So far the feedback has been good. I've done a couple interviews and people seem to like the tone and the energy of the season so far, at least the people that I've spoken to, although are people really going to request an interview with me and then, you know, trash talk the show? So perhaps I shouldn't be basing it on the people I give interviews to. This also is happening, probably stepping on a press release and fucking up somebody's job, but our after show is a go, and I couldn't have said that any less retarded. And for those of you that are offended by the word retarded, I think that's retarded. The after show is a go. The name is Anarchy Afterward. Afterward. AFTERWORD. Huh? Get it? Because we're... we have our host. It's comedian writer Chris Frangiola from Chelsea Lately, who, by the way, refused to have me on her show to promote the new season, so you're welcome. So that begins. We're going to do 3 this season, the premiere, the finale, and 1 other episode. Chris will be the host. We'll have myself and a couple actors from the show and a celebrity guest. And that part is not locked down yet. We have somebody I think that we're going to have on that I'm really excited about. I love her, and I think it'll be her energy will be really cool on this little show, and I think people will be surprised that she's such a voracious Sons of Anarchy fan. So you know, it's just a lot of fanboys and girls talking about the show. It'll go live, and then you know, it'll stream social media, and then it'll be available on the FX website. I think the plan is, if we don't completely fuck it up and tank it, that ultimately we would do more next season, and perhaps do something with it on air in one of the 37 new channels that FX has. I'm going to keep making that joke until I get fired. So that's what's going on with that, being coordinated by the network and the studio, and my actually my assistant Katie Curtright is producing that little after show as well, and has been doing a great job. That, I think, is all I have to say about that. So let's get to our questions. Our first question comes from Sarah from Dayton, Ohio, and I will. It's a really interesting question. I will let Sarah share her question. And Sarah, I can't tell if she's wearing scrubs, but perhaps she is by the nature of her question. Sarah, why don't you ask?
Hi, Kurt. Will we see any more about Gemma's heart issues this season? Thanks.
We actually make reference to the family flaw, as Gemma has called it in the past, in this episode, but we don't do it with Gemma. We actually make reference to it at some point with Abel, to sort of remind the audience and that there is that obviously the symbolism of a broken heart is not that subtle, but that's sort of the idea that it was Gemma's condition, and that it's ultimately what Thomas died of. Thomas, Gemma's son, Jack's little brother, died of. And it was passed on, and that I think we referenced the fact that Jax was born with it, but it never manifested into anything, and that Abel is sort of the same thing. Abel was his birth was complicated, obviously, because his mom at the time was using drugs, so he was born with the heart thing as well as the inside out intestines, and I forget what that disorder was called, which is why he has like the little scar on his belly. Does not have the scar on his chest because the arrhythmia is handled through medication. So we actually make reference to that this season through Abel, but not so much through Gemma. The idea, I think, is that Gemma takes medication for that. We saw her at some point suffer the ramifications of not taking that medication, and what happened in season 3 or 4, I forget. But I don't think we're going to play it out so much as a medical condition. We have, I believe, on our show anyhow, the medical conditions, the external complications, are just that. They're just complications to whatever is going on in terms of emotional life and what's going on with the relationships. I never really wanted a runner about a sickness, that doesn't necessarily feel like what we do on the show. Even Unser's cancer, it's more of a character trait at this point than it is a narrative engine, So I think I answered your question. And just as a reminder to send your questions, that is the email to send your video questions to us here. Our next question comes from, I love this dude. It comes from Charles from Oxnard, California. And Charles just, I'm just going to go out on a limb and I'll let you decide. But I'm guessing that Charles owns a medical marijuana card. Ask away, Charles.
Just wanted to thank you for the show and all your feedback you need to do. Wanted to ask the question, if you didn't have Ron Perlman or Charlie Hanna as your main two co-stars, who would you have selected as alternatives? Or who are your alternatives, I should have said. Or who were your alternatives, really?
Yeah, I've talked about this before in terms of the Ron of it all. We had cast Scott Glenn in the original pilot, and then ultimately wanted to focus a little bit more on the dark humor of the character and really kind of take Clay in a little bit different direction, and ultimately it's why we recast that role. In terms of it being Ron, it was very interesting, or I don't know if it's interesting, but it was for me, that John Landgraf and I put together a list of, like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 actors, and and Ron was literally at the top of both of our lists. And so I had lunch with Ron, and the rest kind of fell into place. And as far as the Charlie of it all, we begin the casting process by throwing out a fairly wide net, and we bring in a lot of people, and I had a sense of who this guy was in the age range, but it's very interesting. I think rarely does this happen in the process of casting, especially probably in TV. I was working on a draft of a movie that was being directed by Lexi Alexander, and I wanted to see what she had done previously, and I watched Green Street, and that all sort of happened in between drafts of Sons, and saw Charlie, and really, from the jump had a sense of how right Charlie would be for this role, and when we began the process, sort of inquiring about, where is this guy? What's he doing? I wasn't aware of some of the other projects he had done, and then since we began that process, started watching other things, and I was just convinced, and and it was sort of providence that Charlie was living in LA. Was sort of taking a little respite from acting and really focusing on writing, and hadn't really been excited about a role in a while, and so I don't think he had any designs on doing TV, and in fact he tells the story that when his agent came to him with the TV idea, he just he was not happy, and his agent said just basically read the script, and and he read the script, and he dug the writing, and he dug the character, and he came in, and we had a meeting and a long conversation about the process, and then he came back and read with the American dialect, and it was just one of those cool things where it's sort of like you have this idea, you see an actor, you go, wow, it'd be great to, that's a great fit, and rarely. In this business anyhow, does that ever happen? Whether it's availability, making a deal, studio relationships, talent holding, there's so many fucking complications that impede that sort of creative, you're the right guy for the right project. And we were very lucky, we got to make that all happen. So the truth is, there wasn't really anybody else that I said, oh, that's my Jax. It really was Charlie from the jump. And not that I didn't see a lot of great actors who could probably have, managed to do the role well. It's just in terms of my vision for the dude, I really, at least in the final drafts of this process, really started seeing Charlie in that role. So was very grateful and lucky to get him. All right, kids, that's it. Thank you for your time and patience. We are again. Here's the email to send the video questions. We're coming close, man. We're a couple of weeks out, I think. Is it the 10th? September 10th? It's a Tuesday. I know that, and hopefully we'll get people to show up. My challenge is still out there. I have to remind people, spread the word. If we increase viewership for season 6 in either the 18 to 49 or the total viewers. In any capacity, even if it's 0.5% at this point, would just be fucking crazy and very cool. And if that happens, I think the plan is for me to come to your house or your favorite watering hole or your favorite theater and watch either the finale or the penultimate episode with you and some of your closest and most dangerous friends. So I appreciate your patience and